Hello and welcome to the Flagstaff County podcast. I'm your host, Kerry Castagna, Communications Coordinator just outside Sedgwick. What did a typical day look like for you back then?
Well, usual farm kid stuff, I guess. You'd be out picking rocks or weeding the garden or chasing cows around or any multitude of stuff. You made sure that you had something going on because if you said you were bored, you'd get assigned something else. So
Yeah,
you,
exactly right.
yeah.
What are some of your strongest memories of growing up in Flagstaff County?
Oh man, a lot of fond memories growing up in Flagstaff. The people, a huge thing growing up, and it didn't matter where you're going, whether you're in the grain truck or driving the pickup truck, you always knew somebody you're waving at or smiling at or talking to. Go to the elevator, and the elevator boys, they're always something to chat about while you're unloading a load of wheat or anything like that. And just the countryside around there, still it has a real dear place in my heart. Just looking back, just driving over those rolling hills and the people that are all around you, you always knew you're in a safe place.
Do you get back much then?
Don't get back much as I'd like to, but got lots of friends and family out that way, so I like to get out there a few times a year and go touch base and make sure everyone's doing all right.
So what kind of kid were you? Were you always hands-on, outdoorsy, curious?
I was a shy little fella there for a while, but I was always outdoorsy and hands-on. I like being outside. I like being around dad or anything that was going on out in the shop or in the yard. Lots of time just exploring. There's lots of space out in Flagstaff. So, if a guy was out hunting gophers or something, you're building a fort or doing something. But I always liked operating any kind of stuff. Start out in the lawn tractors and little stuff, and before you knew it, Dad threw you in the tractor. So
Yeah.
that kind of stuff was always. I liked that stuff as a kid.
Who were the biggest influences in your early life?
Well, I had a couple really good ones actually. So my grandfather, Pat Harris, he was a county foreman there actually at Flagstaff County for years, and he started out he was a mechanic and kind of worked his way up, and he's running road crews and all sorts of stuff, and just watched him grow up. Like he has always had a huge amount of knowledge for mechanical stuff and just kind of know how. And my dad also a big influence. Grew up on the farm. You didn't have a lot of extra money, so if there was a pile of metal there and you could build something useful out of it, it was getting built. And just watching stuff being fabbed up by him from nothing essentially was really inspiring.
So did aviation show up early for you, or was that something that came later?
Well, it showed up kind of early. I didn't get into it real crazy right off the bat, but I still remember my dad. He is a private pilot, still is, and he was going for his night rating, and I still remember him, just going through some of his stuff and getting ready for it. So that's when it kind of, popped up and bit me that,
Did you first realize you wanted to become a pilot?
kind of had to fast forward a bit. Then it was just kind of, oh, it was something that was out there, but
Yeah.
it actually didn't really take hold till my early 20s when I realized that I could actually probably actually do this and actually have the means and maybe the time to do it.
So was there like a specific moment where that really clicked for you?
I just recall just waking up one day, I had a couple of friends from out that way that we were all kind of talking about it and like, you know what, maybe we should just do this, like let's just go and do our ground school. So it was it wasn't anything real planned, anything. It was almost a spur of the moment. Let's try this out, see how it goes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So did you know anyone in aviation growing up, or were you kind of figuring this out on your own?
Well, of course, my dad there, he has private license, but we never had a plane. So whenever we
Oh,
went somewhere, we'd borrow a plane from someone he knew. And but I always remember the aerial applicators growing up.
hmm.
Vern Snethan out that way, Harvey Abbott, Lynn Stedman, all those guys were flying, and in the summertime, especially when they're doing their spraying, they'd go over the house going from here to there, and you'd hear those big radials come over the house, and you'd do everything you could to run outside if you weren't always out there and just looking up and, and see if you catch a glimpse of these guys. I
Oh yeah.
those are exciting times, and one of those guys would come over the house.
So at that stage of your life, did becoming a pilot feel realistic or more like a far off dream?
I'd say it was probably it's kind of a far off dream. Having a private license was that to me would have been the holy grail. Just even
Yeah.
being able to get up and go. Uh, where I've taken it now, at that time I never would have fathomed this would happen. To be
Well,
honest,
so do you remember your first time in a plane?
yeah, yeah. I was actually with my dad. He borrowed a plane at that time, and we took a flight up to Elk Point of all places. And I still remember it was a cold, snowy, but a beautiful, sunny winter day coming into Elk Point, and I can still remember everything about that morning. And it was magical, it really
Oh yeah.
was.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what did that feel like?
Yeah, it
Uh,
was it was magic. Your face is pressed against the window there. You're peering out, and it's almost information overload because you're watching what Dad's doing and flying and that aspect, and you're up there, you're up with the birds, you're looking out over everything, going, wow, like this is absolutely incredible.
it's definitely a different perspective, eh? It's not like when
Yeah,
you're on the ground and you're driving on the highway or, it's a completely different perspective, eh?
yeah, yeah. It totally is.
So you actually worked to get your private pilot's license out of Flagstaff Regional.
Regional is very passionate about aviation, which is fantastic. So, you'd run into somebody, oh yeah, how's your training going? Or, there was always dialogue and encouragement. So that aspect was fantastic. Um, the worst part probably was the satellite school aspect of it, because you're kind of at the whim of someone that was coming from elsewhere to teach you. So that
Hmm.
made it a little bit more difficult at times. But just being able to fly in a small town airport, you're not waiting for taxi clearances, you're not waiting on the ground for all these things. You get up, you go, and you concentrate totally on flying and learning the aircraft and everything about it, as opposed to worrying about radio work as much. If you're flying out of a bigger center like Springbank, huge amount
Hmm.
of training there out of Calgary, and it's I've talked to guys that've done training there, and they spend a good portion of their training just sitting on the ground waiting.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
there's
So,
none of that in Flagstaff Regional.
no, that's the beauty of having wide open spaces, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and did you have access to a plane at that point or?
Not at that point.
Oh, so that
Not
made
quite
it,
yet.
that
Made
would
it a
have made
little
it
tougher.
difficult too, eh?
Yeah, they were bringing down they had their own aircraft there. Uh, I went through a number of different operators, because they'd start a satellite school, then they'd kind of disappear, and another one would come along. So that was tough. So you're always learning new people, and not necessarily new aircraft, but just different ways of doing certain things. But for quite a while there, eventually, Dad did get a small airplane because he really wanted to continue flying,
Yeah.
and that did help a lot. Towards the end, I was able to do a bit more time building in that.
Oh, for
But
sure. Yeah, you
yeah,
gotta, like as they say, you gotta get your reps in. You gotta have your time. You gotta have your time in the plane, right? There's no other way to develop.
yeah, absolutely.
So how did learning to fly locally shape your journey?
It taught me a lot. It gave me a bit more. They call it stick and rudder type feel to things, especially once I learned to fly off of grass airstrips. Like, I was getting all sorts of experiences guys that were stuck in the city places doing their training weren't getting. Lots of low level flying. You'd go out, try and find your friends out combining, navigating by rivers and roads, and just building time. And one single short strip, you have to learn how to fly crosswinds. You have to learn how to fly with adverse weather. and do a lot of weather planning, because we're not, we don't have any kind of weather station or anything like that. So you're looking at the charts, you're figuring out what to expect from the weather. And so I found that it was really beneficial.